On the last full day, the Titanic still behaved like a world that could not imagine its own failure. Breakfast was served, deck chairs were arranged, smoke lifted cleanly from the funnels. A child could walk beside a polished rail and see open water, bright air, and a ship so large it seemed less like a machine than a moving piece of civilization. But the day would not stay on those decks. It would move from polished service into wireless, paper, from warm rooms into colder air, from a calm sea into a darkness that gave almost nothing back. Before night ended, people would still be eating, walking, working, and trusting, while the ship around them began to change meaning. The Titanic did not feel unsafe because everything around it still worked. That was the danger. The Titanic did not begin on the ocean. It began years earlier, in shipyards, advertisements, engineering offices, and social habits that had learned to trust size. The North Atlantic had become a corridor of prestige and speed. Companies competed not just to carry passengers, but confidence. A great liner was not just transportation, it was class order made visible. Private suites above, respectable cabins below them, crowded steerage farther down, and crew movement threaded through the whole structure like hidden labor. Safety rules had not kept pace with scale. Lifeboats were still calculated under assumptions shaped by smaller vessels, and rescue close enough to seem plausible. Watertight compartments made disaster feel containable. Wireless could carry messages across distance, but it was still treated as communication, not as an alarm system that should command the ship. By April 14, that confidence had become routine, and routine is powerful because it does not feel like a decision. Inside the ship, safety was not an idea, it was performed in small acts. In first class, a steward could straighten a tablecloth, place a plate, answer a question, and make the Atlantic feel like the weather outside a hotel window. A passenger reading a menu did not need to think about boilers, compartments, or rescue distance. The ship had already translated those things into service, light, carpet, and scheduled meals. In second class, safety appeared through order that was less luxurious but still reassuring. Signs, stairways, reading rooms, corridors, bells, posted hours, and the quiet belief that the ship's scale meant competence. People moved through the day by clocks and notices, not by fear. In steerage, safety was narrower. It could mean a bunk, a ticket kept carefully, luggage pushed under a bed, a meal at the right time, or a passageway that led where someone said it would lead. The ship was not equally open to everyone. Some routes were confusing, some doors controlled movement, and some passengers trusted the vessel without fully owning its space. Below and above them, the crew turned confidence into labor. Engineers watched gauges. Stewards carried answers before passengers had to ask twice. Officers kept watch. Wireless operators sat in a cramped room where personal messages, commercial traffic, and ice warnings all became paper. That was how danger entered the day, not as a scream, but as a slip, a position, a note, something handled by the same system that handled dinner requests and greetings sent across the ocean. By evening, warning had become part of the ship's paperwork. A message could be arrived from another vessel, be written down, passed along, placed among other signals, and still not feel like a command to stop the world above it. Outside, the cold became something people felt before they understood it. A person on deck could pull a coat tighter and call it a sharp night. A steward could close a door against the air. Somewhere above, A lookout searched a horizon without the white break of waves against ice to help him. The sea made the danger quieter. Its calm did not look violent, it looked almost perfect. The ship's lights kept crossing that dark water. Its engines kept their rhythm. Its decks still made distance feel civilized. Each part of the Titanic held only a fragment of the truth. The operator had messages. The officer had judgment. The passenger had comfort. The steward had order. The lookout had darkness. And none of those fragments alone was enough to make the whole ship feel unsafe before the ice had a shape. A bell rang from the crow's nest. A telephone call moved downward. Orders followed. The wheel turned. Somewhere inside the ship, people continued reading, sleeping, talking, dressing, finishing a card game. Then came contact. Not an explosion, not a theatrical announcement. A scraping impact along the starboard side, strange enough to be noticed, quiet enough at first to be misunderstood. Ice broke onto the forward deck. Passengers opened doors. Some laughed, some looked down passageways. Some returned to what they had been doing because the ship still had light, heat, walls, and command. But below them, the ship had changed category. Water entered where confidence could not follow. It moved into compartments, across floors, around machinery, beneath stairs, under rooms that still appeared ordered. Titanic was not destroyed in one instant. It was being converted, space by space, from a vessel into a sinking structure. For a while, order still had a voice. Officers gave instructions, stewards knocked on doors, passengers put coats over evening clothes. Lifeboats swung outward, but the ship still seemed too large to be failing. That was the real shift. Safety did not vanish when the iceberg touched the hull. Safety vanished when Titanic remained bright, organized, and enormous while the sea was already taking it apart. The angle came slowly, then clearly. Corridors leaned. Decks stopped feeling level. Boats pulled away into black water while hundreds remained under the lights. From the lifeboats, Titanic looked less like a ship than a lit city losing the ground beneath it. The bow sank lower. The stern rose into the dark. The lights kept revealing the shape until the shape could no longer hold. Then it was gone. Afterward, the ocean looked empty. People looked back at the place where a ship had been. Afterward, the disaster did not remain only a story of ice and collision. It became a measurement of failed assumptions. Lifeboats were no longer decorative arithmetic. Wireless silence was no longer acceptable as private inconvenience. Ice patrols, watch schedules, emergency procedures, and passenger safety became evidence that modern systems could kill when their rules lagged behind their power. The Titanic is remembered because it sank, but its deeper force comes from the hours before anyone believed sinking was possible. The meals, the corridors, the messages, the calm sea, the class divisions, the officers, the operators, the passengers, the ordinary night moving forward. The ship was not a world without warnings. It was a world that had learned how to receive warnings without letting them change enough. And on its last safe day, the Titanic did not look like a disaster approaching. It looked like the future working exactly as promised.